Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Welcome back to an evening edition of Dogging It. It's been a little bit since we've been on here live in the evening, but I'm excited because this is a show with purpose, which I really enjoy. I buy and sell a lot of product, and I don't post to groups that much anymore. All of my stuff is more through like private sales and things like that. People that have known me over the years or know that I will get product from companies or whatever. And I still buy from Q makers and got good relationships, but all of it was done online. And that's how I actually started doing all this crazy stuff was by buying and selling online. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me and see me all right. I'm going to bring in our guest here in just a minute, John Barton of JB Cases. But yeah, it's protecting yourself is super important, and I'll get questions all the time, even still, from friends of mine or people that I know, and just asking what the best way to go about it, and whether you're buying or you're selling, you got to make sure and protect yourselves. There's plenty of reputable people to do business with, and so we're going to talk scammers, man. They're more sophisticated than ever. I see them all the time. I see clone accounts. I see all kinds of stuff, man. They're getting more and more sophisticated. So, but let's bring in John, and we'll welcome him onto the show. John, welcome, buddy. How are you?
Hey, I'm glad to be here, man. I'm pretty good, except for just being completely pissed off about the way these scammers are ripping people off.
It's left and right, man. I see like all the time. Because I'm good friends with Shelby, right? So like I'll see Shelby's cloned account all the time, and I there's like certain red flags that I see when it's just like it's these photos that I've recognized from different people, as far as product, or it's stuff that like he doesn't sell a BK Rush, you know what I mean? And so that
Yeah,
doesn't make
crazy.
any sense, or like a Mucci gambler for $500, like that doesn't make any sense. And it's that old adage, like if it's too good to be true, it probably is. But tell me some of the obstacles or some of the issues you've had over the years just doing business, and because now you've gone more online than anything else compared to doing trade shows over the years.
Yeah. So yeah, we have been a lot more active, ever since COVID, and so we've attracted the attention of some of these clone scammers. But basically, they've gotten pretty sophisticated. So
Indeed.
so the way that they work is they will clone an account, but it doesn't even have to be my account, right? Um, they will they operate in these networks. Um, a lot of them are out of Africa, some of them are out of Vietnam, some of them are out of America, and they're just straight up criminals, operating out of various cities in America. But the way that it works is they basically will set up a new Facebook account and name it as a person that's known in the industry or just any normal person.
Yeah.
They'll basically go through the buy and sell groups, and they'll just basically take note of who the popular sellers are, who the trusted sellers are, um, what the popular
Products are.
are,
Yeah.
and they will just set up these pages as either a well-known person or even just a normal person that they can just start advertising stuff for sale. And what happens is they not only clone an account just for sales, they'll also clone a whole bunch of accounts to pretend to be friends with that account. So they can build up a bunch of followers and a bunch of
Oh, well, so and so knows him. He's got to be reputable. He's friends with
exactly.
this guy, or
So
he's friends with that guy.
you look on their profile and it says, Molina Mike is your friend, right? Is a mute. They won't say is a mutual friend. You'll just see it because it'll be an actual different account. It won't be your account. It'll be a clone of your account, but they won't see it under the mutual friend. They'll just see it under the friends list, and they'll think, "Oh yeah, I know Molina. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
cool." And so that builds a little bit of trust.
Credibility by default, right? Because they see someone
Exactly.
they've known in the industry or they're comfortable with, or he's been around for a long time. So this guy's got to be on the level because they're friends, right? Why else
Yeah.
would they be friends online?
And now they're even smarter because they don't actually sell at too good to be true prices. They'll sell at prices that are just a little bit under retail, or sometimes directly at retail. I've seen them even selling above retail. Um, but this has been particularly vexing for me because they are really, really going after us and using my name quite a bit. Um, and they're just straight up. I mean, it's so hilarious, right? They will rip off pictures from our website and
Yeah.
from our Facebook pages. Um, they will do things like they will sell, for example, a Castillo case or a Predator case under my name. You know,
Ironically enough, huh?
or a big one is Town Chalk.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like I don't know where they get. You know, they just basically see whatever they think is popular, and
Well, that's
I have
what's wild is
had,
that they're not afraid to pick up $20. Like there's no amount too small that they're willing to scam somebody out of, even if it's just a couple of bucks. Money's money, it seems like to these guys.
I've had people emailing me and texting me and asking me if I still have grosses of Talm chalk for sale, and I don't even think Talm sells in grosses, do they?
I don't know. I know whenever I buy from Finland or we get stuff for sponsorship, we'll buy like so there's 9 in a box, and we'll usually buy, I don't know, like 10 boxes at a minimum, something like that. Whenever we're purchasing, and it makes sense for shipping purposes, right? You want to buy in bulk to save on your cost. I'm sure you can appreciate that with the way you do business, but I mean, like and that's what is scary is that because usually if it is too good to be true, kind of that shame on you approach. But like if they're selling at prices that are, fairly priced or in the market, and then you see these mutual friends, it's like they're layering things to
They
where
do.
come spend your money over here, you know?
And that's the sophistication that they do. And then what they'll do is they will block me right out of the gate, so I can't even see them. So I'll get people sending me these screenshots, and they'll say, "Hey, is this you?" And I know it's not me, but I can't even go check it because they already blocked me.
Yeah.
So there's no way that I can see it. And the thing that I wanted to talk about tonight is a couple things is how to spot these guys because there are tells
There
um,
are.
that people can use, and also I want to say that Facebook doesn't give a shit about the users. They honestly do not care about their users getting ripped off. Now I'm going to say that's my opinion, okay? Because I don't want to get us, somehow banned by their AI or something like that. Um, but I'm going to go on a campaign. We're already mapping it out to try to get Facebook's attention on this and get them to take it seriously because we believe that Facebook definitely has the tools to know about these networks and they could wipe them off the board at any time.
what
Um,
I what I would say along with that is, be your brother's keeper, and more importantly, be your own keeper. Do the homework that you guys ought to be doing if you're buying and selling. And it's like I said, it's not just if you're the one willing to spend the money; it's for the buying side of it as well, because there's ways you can get, taken advantage of on that end. Ask questions. I don't care like who the person is. Hey, is there anybody that's a mutual friend? What part of the country are you in? And then I'll go ask friends of mine in Chicago or in Tennessee or whatever. Hey,
yep.
this guy? I'm asking questions like that, but that's part of building relationships over the years. But asking these questions that if you have nothing to hide, right, you're going to willingly give that up, right? I go ask John Barton, hey, do you have any references? You're going to point me to your website that's or your thousands of reviews or whatever the case may be, and so but the ones that have something to hide, it's usually for a reason, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you're absolutely right. Every person has to take responsibility for what they're doing. Um, but like I said, these guys are really sophisticated.
They are.
Um, they are getting better every day at having conversations. So it's I don't put all the blame on the consumer here because it's just that they can make it look so good in that
Right.
moment that it makes it easy to pull the trigger. especially like in our case, because we do so many different cases. When we make cases, we make batches of cases, we make whatever we want. So there's no standard models per se, right? So anytime someone's looking online, they might see a blue and black case or blue and purple, or, you know, something with a dragon on it or something like that, that we might have sold like a year ago, and we're
Right.
not even making it anymore, and they just ripped off a picture. But it seems relevant to whoever's looking at it at that moment when they see it for sale.
Right.
So it might seem to be for sale from an account that's named after me. It might seem to be for sale from just some random person. It might seem to be for sale from somebody who's pretending to be a dealer of ours.
Yep.
Excuse me. And the biggest thing that I can say, where I can echo what you said about, you know, take care of yourself, is don't be so impulsive that you're willing to throw caution away. You know, because
It's a fast food world, John. You know, when I want a burger, I want to go pick it up right now. If I'm hungry and I don't feel like driving to the gas station, I'm door dashing something and I want it in the 45 minutes, you know?
right. One of the guys that got scammed just yesterday, he was so mad. This is how good these guys are, right? The customer had actually contacted us and talked to my wife. My wife sent him a link to a case that we had available, and the guy didn't buy it right away, and he turned around and bought a case. Well, what he thought he was buying a case from us, but on a different fake account. So then these guys are so greedy sometimes, right? If they would leave it alone, they would be able to like string somebody along for more days, but sometimes they get greedy. He sold the guy a case, took $250 from him, and then turns around and tells him that he needs to send another $500 for the shipping.
Where's he shipping from?
Yeah, exactly, right? So then of course the customer, you know, the red flags go up, and he's like, "Dude, I'm not paying you $500."
See, and that's what's crazy, John, is that like that's one of the first fundamental things that I'm asking is that, like, especially like if me and you are negotiating a price, whether I'm buying from you as on the secondary market or from a dealer or whatever, I'm making sure and asking you, hey, listen, is the price me and you agreeing on shipped, right? Because as the buyer, I want to know what's my bottom line gonna be like, you know? So if someone dumps that on me on the back end.
Yeah, but that was after he already sent the money. He already
Yeah.
sent the money, friends and family. So before we go any further, everybody, you know, never, ever, ever send friends or family. Don't send Facebook payments. Don't send it by Cash App. Any of these ways that are not refundable to you through the medium that you're sending it, where you're not protected. That's exactly like putting cash in an envelope and sending it. You know, and just don't do it. You have to be like 300% sure of who you're sending money to if you're going to send it by those routes.
Right.
So that's, you know, that's just,
and even then you still have this small possibility that your nose is wide open, you know, and now you have no safety net underneath you. And there are reputable people with you know, that have held a good name over the years of selling online and stuff, and I've seen people do that. I know that at times I've told people, hey, listen, I don't want to pay the 4% or whatever it is. If you want to send it as friends, great. And if you don't, that's fine. I'm not going to lose any sleep over not making the sale because I know I'll get it on the back end or whatever, you know. But like that's from doing it for a long time, you know. And it's more the exception than the rule, you know. Does that make sense, John?
Oh, absolutely. If a seller won't accept friends and family, that should always be a red flag for you. You know, if you don't really know them and you don't know who you're speaking with, you're not absolutely sure. And when I say absolutely sure, I mean you need to be like triple sure.
Yeah.
Because it's just too risky. You know, so years ago we used to have a lot more people getting scammed from domestic people here. These weren't the like networks, and they weren't sophisticated criminals. They were just shady people that would, put up a queue for sale. They'd even have the queue. They would just never send it.
Right.
And then sometimes they would even double sell it or something, some stuff like that. And then, the buyer would have to chase them down, and then they'd have to make big, long posts about it. So on Open Billiards Market, for example, we set up a sister page that is
buyer seller transaction.
Exactly. Buyer seller transactions, where we were doing a lot of listing of people who were scammers. And sometimes we were kind of brokering the deal between people, where we were saying, okay, if you don't make good on it, then we're going to ban you from the group, and we'll ban you from all the groups where we're admins from. And sometimes that pressure would get people to do the right thing and complete the deal.
Well, because now you're outing them. And that page was gospel for many, many years. Lord knows that whenever I was buying and selling regularly online, that's like one of the first things that I go to. I go to that page, and what do? I type in the person's name, and I want to know exactly who I'm dealing with, whether he's got good reviews or bad reviews, and you'll see both sides of it.
So yeah, I mean, and that's what happens, is if people don't take advantage of that. And the thing is that a lot of people don't even know about that. This is why I say Facebook doesn't care. Facebook charges me $12 a month for a verified badge. They just started doing this, 6 months or so ago. And, but this verified badge is practically worthless, because Facebook doesn't make a big deal out of it to all the users and say, hey, look for a verified badge. So it's a little blue piece it's a little blue sticker in the corner of my profile. But that's it. That's how you know it's me. But any of these scammers could do the same thing. They could also just buy a verified badge at $12 a month. Well, one of the things Facebook says they give you for that is impersonation monitoring. So they're saying they're going to proactively monitor you for clone accounts, and it's completely worthless. All this does is give me the ability to start a chat with an actual person. And this person that I get to chat with is got to be the lowest level possible person there is at Facebook, because they have no power to do anything. I have to jump through hoops to even get to be able to chat with them. Then I get to report the page, and I have to jump through hoops to do that. And then most of the time, they come back and say they're not going to ban the page because it doesn't violate their terms and services.
Right.
Which it clearly does. And so that's basically useless. But one thing they tell me is, they say, well, have you announced this on your page? And I say, yes, of course I announced it on my page, but you guys limit the reach. So there's no telling how many people actually saw it. Everybody doesn't get the memo, when you send it. Even when you use the, what is it? They got another a thing where you can say send to all or something like that.
You can like highlight or add everyone or, things like that.
Add everyone, right? But even at that, everyone that's on your list doesn't get it. It's still Facebook filtering and deciding who gets to see it and not. So
by the way, if everyone's me, I'm instantly out. I jump ship right away. Any at everyone comments, John, I can't deal with it. I'd rather just let me find it on your feed, but that's just more personal tilting preference than anything else. But that's part of like that algorithm, right? The guy posts it. It just depends on whether or not the feed of your customers or the people who follow your page are going to see that. And then you got to hope that you're putting it in there at a time where they're scrolling on Facebook, because you can do it late in the evening, and then people are just going to get flooded overnight or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah, every person on Facebook has a different feed. There's no two people on Facebook who see the same information in the same way at the same time ever. And people don't usually think about that a lot, but that's the way it is. It's like, and Facebook puts people in all these bubbles. So it's really ineffective for Facebook to say to me, well, why don't you announce it and try to protect your customers? And I'm like, well, I do that.
Yeah.
But you guys should be the one using your tools to protect everyone from these networks of scammers. So
it's this like cultural letdown, I feel like, within the online pool community, because it goes from not just consumers who are buying, but then you have admins of groups that are allowing these people in, people
Right.
who are accepting friend requests from some of these people even though they don't know them. And listen, Lord knows I've been guilty of it. I run a page before and you see so and so's being added on there, even if you have questions to try to vet them or whatever, nobody's got the time for that. So it's a process, but like, you're allowing these people to seep into the community and rob people and just take money from unsuspecting buyers who are just getting taken advantage of.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You know, the admins in a lot of these groups are kind of being negligent. Now there are new tools that Facebook has put in for the groups where you can not accept people if they've been on Facebook, or their profile has been active for less than a certain amount of days, things like
Oh, so
that.
it's like a new profile kind of deal. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and you can put up some questions, you know, that most of these scammers won't be able to answer easily. You know, you can find things like, you know, what's Bustamani's nickname or something, but ask it in a way that they wouldn't be able to search it easily.
Yeah.
Um, but the main part is that the moderators and the admins really need to pay attention, and they need to turn it on where nobody gets automatically approved.
Right.
You know, and I know it's a chore to go through these lists sometimes. You know, every day you got to go through 10, 12 new accounts or however many, but it's really worth it to protect your users. Now, that's one thing I think that we've done a good job of on Open Billiards Market. We're really diligent about that, you know, about keeping the scammers out. And I haven't really seen that many people getting scammed from our page, just because we've really, you know, made it a priority to do that. And some of our admins set up a lot of tools and a lot of filters and gates to keep people out. But even at that, we don't automatically accept anyone. So the filters work to keep people out that we don't even see them. But we still approve every account on an account by account basis. So I want to say something to the guys in the chat though, real quick. So the guy that got scammed, right? He was actually confused. You know, he thought that he was talking. He did call us, but he thought that the account that he was dealing with online on Facebook was ours. So he went to our website and got our phone number and called us. And then on Facebook, he also thought he was talking to us. So when he got taken, he thought that it was us before he figured out that he was scammed. And so he went on a bunch of our pages and he was like, this is a scam site. These guys are scamming me, you know, and
That's how good they make it look, huh?
yeah. And so we were able to get him situated, you know, and take that all off and, you know, make him understand that it wasn't us that took his money. And he did, you know, buy a case from us, but, you know, the poor guy lost $250. And we've seen, you know, some of these scammers are so arrogant. I had one of them try to extort me and tell me that he would stop impersonating me if I would send him $5,000.
How strong is that?
Yeah. And then when I said I wasn't going to do it, then he said, well, make it 3,000, you know, make it 2,500. So then
he was open. He was open for negotiating at least.
Of course. Cause you know, there was no possible way the guy was ever going to stop that. He was sending me screenshots of people that he scammed, you know, like 2 screenshots in a row added up to $1,500 that he took people using our cases, you know, using pictures of our cases.
And they're doing it with all kinds of people. I see a comment on there from Billiards Factory. I've seen Diamond Billiard Products a part of these pages. I've seen custom cue makers, production cue makers. I mean, you name it. It's any and everybody. There's nobody off limits for who they're willing to impersonate to get your money.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason that I wanted to come on the podcast is because I want to. You have a lot of reach, you know, and you're well respected. And I think that this is a good chance to really get it out there. And I want to encourage everybody in the chat to share this podcast. You know, dissemination is the best way to do this. So we started. You started to show my screen on there.
Yeah, let's
We
bring it back up here.
okay. Let me open this up so it's all the way across. We started a document here. This is for the JB Cases scammer doc, and you can find this on our page. You can find this in various places that we've posted it. But basically, this is a list of the ones that we've identified so far. You know, a lot of these guys and screenshots. You've got images. Um, you've got like these types of messages, and they use the same language a lot of times.
They
People
do on their
work
profile, John. That's one thing I've noticed is that like on their profile page, it's like it's very similar wording on there.
Oh yeah, yeah. The let me see if I can pull up an image here, one of these, and show you guys what it looks like. Let's see. So is that going to come up? Here we go. So yeah, like here's one right here where the guy, it's a scammer. The guy says John Barton. I don't know whose picture that is right there.
I don't know what that is either.
And they just like this is like a screenshot of my oldest page, like 15 years ago. This is me selling out of a van, way back in the day. They pull up any pictures they want, right?
They got a lot of time on their hands, John, is what it looks like.
Well, yeah, they do actually. I just told you that one of the scammers tried to extort me, right?
Right.
Well, it turns out that I had a conversation with the guy like a year before that, because he tried to get me for a lathe. And so basically the lathe on there was, he said he was in Houston, right? So I said, well, it so happens I know a lot of people in Houston, why don't you name some people that we mutually know?
Attaboy.
And then I can get them to come over and check it out, and make sure everything's good, right? And that's when it went downhill from there, Then this is the type of language that you'll see with these guys. They will say things like, well, sir, there's no way that I would cheat you. I don't know why you would think that. I've never cheated anybody in my life. That sort of thing, it's,
right. And look, it's not offensive if you're asking me, and if I have a good reputation, and or someone to vouch for me, because I've asked that question hundreds of times, John, to someone. Where are you at? Is there someone that we may know who's mutual? And like, especially a place like Houston, big pull community. You can find someone who finds someone who knows someone who's reputable, who can say yay or nay on that guy.
Right. Now, here's another one, right, that you guys got to watch out for. These guys are so sophisticated, they will create groups. They will even copy groups. So here's a group that says Q's and cases for sale. And you guys know that I do these auctions, I do these live sales.
Right.
Well, check this out. They basically copied here the text from my wife's account. Then they have a picture of a case that we made years ago, and it's in this group, right? And he's basically saying PM me. So people will PM and they'll go, hey, do you have a red case, or do you have a blue case, or a black, or whatever, right? And that starts the conversation, and the guy will just go steal whatever pictures he needs to pacify the customer.
Look at that sentence, second to the last one. I'm donating 10% of the sales tonight for Children's Orphanage Foundation. So now I'm pulling at your heartstrings to go and take advantage of you as well.
And that's that, like that line right there. That's not even anything we wrote. Like that we didn't donate. We may have donated 10% to race, but it has nothing to do with any children's orphanage. This is the kind of stuff that they do. But so this document, like I said, I'll put it in chat later, and so people can go to it. It's open for anybody to look at, and you can just search on there and kind of go through stuff. And we're going to clean it up and make it even better. But yeah, I mean, we're just adding to it as we find these things.
And it's not just under for you, John. I mean, like I mentioned before, there's a ton of people, whether it's queue makers or custom queue makers or reputable sellers or whatever. I mean, I'm seeing them all over the place these days, and they're going for great lengths um, uh, to replicate someone's profile or try to deceive people.
Yeah, and then here's a bunch. You'll see this guy around sometimes. This Larry Johnson. He does a lot of lathes and stuff like that, but it's not Larry Johnson.
But look at that, 26,000 followers.
Yeah, yeah. Look at that, 11,000 likes, 26,000 followers. Um, it's crazy sometimes. So it's not always that you can count on the fact that they don't have very many likes or don't have very many followers. Right. Like here's another profile. So this is a blank profile right here. So what we've noticed while we've been identifying these guys is they will set up these blank profiles,
mm-hmm.
and then at some point they will just start filling it up. So this particular one right here, Facebook, we tried to report it. Facebook came back and said, well, it's not active yet, so we're not going to do anything.
They're just keeping it in the bank for now.
Yeah, they're keeping it in the bank for now. Like if you look here, it says JB Cases, protection your queue deserves, right?
Yeah, right. It
says I'm from Tulsa, which I'm not, and then it's John Barton, right? So if you're a human being and you're looking at that and you look at my profile, then oh, this is obviously
gotta be John
starting a clone site, right?
Yep.
But Facebook is like, hey, nothing to see here.
Yeah, and I'm sure like if you searched, JB Cases, that there's a possibility that eventually at the end of the rainbow you might find that profile because of the wording that's in there when it comes to JB Cases protection, your queue deserves,
right? Because that's my tagline.
Yeah.
So I would bet right now if you went on Facebook and you searched for John Barton, you would probably find a couple fake profiles that I can't even see because they've already blocked me.
So what are some things that consumers can do, John, to further protect themselves? I mean, obviously, if they go through websites and things like that, but like if they think they're talking with the real deal people, what are some other ways that they can go about just making sure and do their homework?
So first of all, you can look for the website that looks like the real JB Cases, and what I mean by that is you can just start going through it and you will see if you just read what we write, and it'll be all coherent. It will all be in the same vein. There won't be things that are incongruent, which is like the one I just showed you that said, hey, here's an auction.
Right.
But there's actually no auction, right?
Yeah. PM me.
So, PM me. Yeah. So yeah. PM me is a big one, right? If they always say PM me, or if you see a listing for sale and they don't list a price, okay? Or they list a price, but they only accept conversation in PMs. Like if someone says, if they don't list a price and you say, someone asks a question and you say, what's the price, right?
Yeah.
And their answer is PM me, then that's a red flag because they want the conversation to be private. They don't want it to be in public. They don't want people, they don't want to give an answer where it triggers other people to say, hey, that doesn't look right.
They'll call bullshit on it. The community will see it. Yeah.
Exactly. So once they get that conversation private, that's what they want. So you'll see this all over the place with these guys. They'll put up something for sale, whether it's Town Chalk or JB Cases or Mezcues or whatever, and they will not entertain any conversation about it whatsoever. Every single question that's asked about it,
send me a message.
The answer will be PM me.
Yeah.
And you'll notice if you go to any of the pages that are real JB Cases pages, the conversation goes like this. If somebody says, what's the price? I always answer, or one of our customer service reps will answer with it in public, the public price.
Yeah.
And if they say, do you have any in red or green or blue, right? Then we'll say yes or no. And then we'll show a picture or two of that, right? So we keep the conversation public because, and here's the reason I do that, just to kind of give you a heads up on that. because I look at that as an opportunity to market to everybody who's reading that chat as well.
Of course,
You
but
know,
that's
so
because you're reputable, right? So you want to, what your price is. You're not afraid of your price. You're not afraid of where
right,
it's at. So like, I don't mind that information being public. And if that guy doesn't want to fire at it, well, some other guy may go and look at the comment and say that's
exactly.
available at that price. I'm snap calling that thing.
Exactly. That's exactly why I do it that way. So you look for people who are willing to do that. They're usually going to be okay, but that's not a guarantee. But you know, most of the time they're going to be okay. Um, so another thing is look for the English. You know, look at the syntax and how people are writing things. If they say things like you know, I swear on my mother that I won't cheat you, or you know, anything like that, where you know they're doing their best to convince you that they're not a cheater or they're not a scammer, they're generally going to be a scammer. You know,
Yeah.
um, you can ask for mutual friend conversations. You know, you can say to them, um, who do we know together? You know, like, where are you from? You can ask them,
Yeah.
you can say, where are you from? Right. And
Yeah.
if they say they're from Oklahoma City, then look up players from Oklahoma City and say, do you know so and so? Right. Or
I've done it.
ask
I've
your
done it
buddy.
so many times, and it's nothing personal. It's just business, right? You want to do whatever you can to protect yourself and make sure what you're buying is on the level and the person you're doing business with is on the level. And like, if you don't have anything to hide, then you have no issue giving up that information, right? Because if I say, hey, listen, go ask John Barton about me, go ask Franco about me, go ask Shelby Williams about me, go ask Eddie Cohen about me, go ask Pat Deviney about me. I don't got any issue saying that because they'll tell you what our interaction has been like doing business, right? So I've no issues or worries or whatever, But it's the people with that don't want you to knock on the door, don't want you looking behind the curtain. Those are the ones you got to be worried about. If you get defensive or you start pivoting a little bit, it's usually a red flag that something's not on the level.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the beauty of the internet is the networking that we can do.
That's a catch-22 though, John.
Exactly. And that's what they're using against us.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to be a little bit more diligent and a little bit more careful and a little bit willing, to let a deal go by.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely. Don't be afraid of that.
yeah, it's worth it. It's better to lose a deal, a legitimate deal, than it is to get scammed. Because another deal is always going to come along.
There's always another queue. There's always another good price out there. And I know some people, we get impatient. Lord knows that I do. But you can't be afraid of, like John said, just walking away. If something doesn't feel right, just walk away. Because there's been plenty of times where even I'm doing homework and I'm like, man, that's a really good price. I really don't want to, that's a good flip, or that's a good this, or I really want that. And it's like you kind of get filtered into believing that, come buy me, come give him money. And then before you know it, and listen, I've been taken advantage of as well. I've made mistakes too. And this is where I'm sending guys $500 and then I lose out on it. And that's back when $500 was a lot of money. I mean, it still is. But like, man, it felt like a punch in my stomach, taking food out of my girls' mouths, and so, and was when like buying and selling was a big part of everything that I was doing. And it's like, I go back and I reflect on it, or those moments. And it's like, it sucks that you have these expensive learning situations, right? But like, if you just ask a few more questions, right? If you just do a little bit more homework, you'll find out eventually whether it's good or it's not.
So a couple other things that people can look for: go to the friends list, like look at the friends. A lot of times you'll see all these accounts. Like there's one of the networks is like got I think it's a lot of Vietnamese. So you'll see a friends list that has a long list of Vietnamese names, right, written in Vietnamese. And when you start clicking on those profiles, you'll start to see that they are networked with each other.
They're
So
similar.
yeah, they'll have they'll be each of their friends lists will look exactly like each other one, you know?
Makes sense. Yeah.
And if you start clicking through their profiles, you'll start to see things like car parts. So one big one that we've seen with these guys is if you go down far enough, like you'll see that pool cue cases, Talon chalk, Predator, so on is for sale. But as you scroll further down, like say 6 months or a year back, then you'll see that they're selling car parts or watches or something like that, right? So they've played that out as much as they can, and now they're moving on to different products.
And now they're just gotten into the pool world online through Facebook. That's interesting. I never knew that, John. I mean, I've seen a lot of these accounts, but I never did that much homework where you start to see stuff like that. So they're just getting it however they can get it. Then.
Yeah. And I started another page called Billiard Scammers, on Facebook, but it hasn't really gotten a lot of traction yet. But there's a couple guys on there that are also keeping lists whenever they find stuff, and one guy's got like 1,000 names on his list. So I'll link to that later as well. So hopefully we can get that page going and get more traction. So let me answer a few of these questions that I'm seeing coming through here on the chat, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Constantine says, do you mean fake Facebook accounts where you sell to a private person, or they're a copy of an online shop? Constantine, it's both. It's fake accounts where they will copy an ordinary person, and then they will just use that person to try to sell products. Then they will copy online shops. They will copy known personalities.
Right.
So like John Barton, everybody knows that I'm the guy that does cases. So they will copy my name. They will make up names and say they work for JB Cases. So we've seen that. So that's the kind of things they'll do. So it could be any of those things. There's even websites out there that have been made up that say JB Cases, and it's instead of JB Cases like with no as one word, it's like JB dash cases. And people are getting ripped off on that, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay, so the other one was let's see here. It's there was one question I had on here.
There's one that says, do they chat through actual phone calls or only messages?
Yeah, DC says that. So it's been our experience that it's almost exclusively messages. They won't give you any phone number, but I imagine they could. But if you called their phone number, you'd probably immediately get some kind of an African accent or an Asian accent. So I haven't really seen anybody that I would say is doing this with an American accent or like Americans that are based in America. I've seen ones that seem to be based in America, but it seems to be only foreign people doing it. So I don't know if they're Asian Americans.
There's shitheads out there that are here in the States that are pulling moves, but like not as these sophisticated scammers networks that I've seen, at least some that I've seen anyway.
One guy that I've been corresponding with, he says that per his research, most of this is coming through Instagram. So Instagram is real big in Africa, and those guys just create accounts all day on their phone. So they're basically just networks of people on their phones,
and it's nothing to get taken advantage of on there. I went to go buy my girl some shoes and came across a thing on there where I was like, man, that price is great, and they fell in love. And Daddy, I want this and that, and I went and fired at it. Before I knew it, $450 later, but like everything looked legit. Hey, we're shipping the next day. We got 50,000 followers. Yep. Like all these things that were just like in my head, I felt comfortable doing it. Until the money cleared.
What happens, and it happens to the best of us. I pulled the trigger on a lathe, but luckily I had the sense, even though the guy told me to send it friends and family, I sent it goods and services. Then he got mad at me for that, which, I knew at that moment, then it's that he's not legit.
Yep.
And I just immediately told PayPal, to reverse the transaction. And they did. I had to wait like 2 weeks before I got my money back, but I got it back. But the guy was like, he actually accused me of being greedy because I wouldn't let him rip me off.
The nerve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said, you guys in the West are so rich, you won't miss it,
Yeah. Oh God. God bless him.
And,
Yeah.
So Damien says, I've tried to turn in scammers. Facebook tells me it doesn't go against their standards. Yeah, that's extremely common. We have found it to be almost impossible to ever have an account banned by reporting it through Facebook's normal method of doing it. And Facebook makes this so cumbersome to do it. In my mind, they have deliberately made it difficult to do it. Remember earlier when I told you I paid $12 to a month to be able to do the to actually chat with a human?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to take you through this, but I could, do a screenshot here and like not a screenshot, but I could do a screen share and show you how I go through it. But I've reported so many people through that they actually have stopped allowing me to do the impersonation report. So I actually have to go through another kind of way to start with a different subject, like what's wrong.
Yeah.
And then once I get in conversation, I say, hey, I'm being impersonated and all this.
So they disabled that feature for you because you've been doing it too much.
Yeah. Is that ridiculous or what?
That's wild, man. Yeah.
It's crazy. And I hope someday there's a class action lawsuit or something that comes up about this that I can join. But yeah, it's the basic gist of it does go back to what you said at the very beginning is be diligent and be careful. But just remember that it's always so important to ask, to ask questions. One of my customers said he had a good way of doing it. Whenever he comes up against one of these scammers, he'll ask the scammer, he said, are you really JB Cases? And then the scammer will go they'll always go, well, of course I am, right? So then he will say, okay, if you're JB Cases, what message did I ask you? What did I ask you yesterday?
And then they shit themselves.
Yeah, because they don't know. They don't know if you really ask anything or not,
Right.
The best they can do is guess at it.
Yeah.
So, that one right there is a real easy one as a way to be able to get them to trip themselves up.
I can tell you a couple things that I do personally because I've had people use my name as far as vouching. Number one, there's very few people who I'll vouch for. That's the first thing. Not because of it's less headache that way. There's plenty of people who will offer escrow services as well that you guys can use through a third party, and they're within the pool community or even outside the pool community who will help broker that deal and make sure that everyone gets what they're paying for. But the other thing is, I don't erase messages. And so if someone says, hey, do you know so-and-so because he's dropping your name? You know what I do, John? I go back and I search in Facebook Messenger. I'll find the person. And even if it was back in, 2015, oh, yeah, I bought a cue from him back then. I don't know how he is now, but back then I bought a cue from him. I would do business with him again, but that's the extent of me willing to put my name on it because it's tough out there.
Yeah, same here. Like there's very few people that I will vouch for, but when I use the word vouch, like if I say I vouch for you, then that means to me
you're on the hook.
If something goes wrong with that deal, I'm going to cover your end of it.
As well, you should, because that's what that means to me too, John. So like if I say, hey, that guy's good, if he turns out to be a shit, now I'm on the hook for that money because I said that he was good.
Right. And I think that we're in the minority there about how we use that word. Because I've seen people use the word vouch and then a deal goes bad and then they're like, oh man, I don't know anything about it,
Yeah.
He was good when I dealt with him, but and that's what they're trying to say at that point is that's all they were saying, is they were saying, yeah, I did a deal and it was good. That's what I'm vouching for. But
that's why, like, I'm very specific when it comes to my wording. I'm very specific as far as things that I'll do or say. But that's part of, like I said, why I also don't erase messages, because I can go back and look and see people who I may have bought things from. And listen, there's plenty of assholes out there and scammers and all this, but there's also a good core group of people who are legitimate and who are honest, and they'll stand by
Absolutely.
they will stand by their word, by their product. If something doesn't go right, they'll make it right. Their reputation means something to them, and they'll go above and beyond to make sure that you're taken care of. And there are plenty of deals to be had out there. You just got to make sure you're, crossing your T's and dotting your I's before you hit the send button on that money.
That's right. Kyle has a good suggestion. He says that's why I prefer the good old fashioned phone call.
Yep.
So yeah, you can always ask the people to call them on the phone and talk to them. And a lot of the times, the scammers, probably most of the time, they won't want to do that. So that can be a red flag. So there's that. The somebody asked about this DAZN class action. Now, I know this podcast isn't about that. I saw something briefly about it, like somebody there's a class.
I saw a reel with what looked like an attorney mentioning it. I didn't do anything after seeing the reel as far as the class action, so I couldn't tell you one way or the other. That's just my personal experience with it.
Well, I'll answer this guy's question on that as far as these things go. If all it's asking, so what happens in a class action is you have to basically retain the attorney or give him permission to represent you. So that one, it probably isn't a scam. But you should ask around like you're asking right here. You should probably find somebody else that's a little more qualified to talk about it, or look for it online. Usually the attorney will have a website. You can go to their website and read about it. So I would suggest doing that. But on the surface of it, I don't think that that's a scam, because they're not asking you for any money in that one. They're just asking to represent you so that they can, whatever they get out of DAZN, they're going to get their fees out of it. And then whatever's left over will be divided up amongst everybody that's part of the class.
What I would also say along with it, just be careful on stuff you click as well. Like I know me, I don't like clicking stuff that I get in Messenger unless I really know the guy. But even then, people's accounts can get hacked. And listen, I got how you buying and selling and the reach online. I protect it pretty thoroughly. So that's a rule of thumb for me, that I don't like clicking stuff like that. But there's all kinds of ways for them to get your information, for them to get your money, for them to steal things from you, and you just got to make sure you're looking out for number one.
Oh, absolutely. So that's pretty much all I had on this right now. I mean, I got a lot more that I could rant about, and I could show what all the hoops I have to jump through with Facebook. But the basic bottom line here is, as you said at the beginning, take care of yourself. Don't be so impulsive, that you're just willing to send your money over to somebody that you haven't vetted. And lastly, understand that there is no entity out there that is going to protect you. They're not there. They want activity over security. So Facebook, PayPal, all these people, they want activity over security, and they don't care, right? Every single individual is tiny, tiny, small potatoes to them. They don't care.
Just a number.
So there's no law enforcement agency that's gonna care about what you're doing. Facebook doesn't care. So you're on your own with this. Guys like me, I will do my best to provide resources. Go to Open Billiards Market transaction reports.
I'll agree to that. I've used that, like I said, you guys, for many, many years. The buyer-seller transaction page is a great resource if you're doing stuff. That's like the go-to number one. As I'm asking them questions, I'm going to that group to type in their name to search up their information, and that's like step number 2 basically is what I'm doing right there.
Right, and I would really recommend, for those of you who are watching this, who are admins of groups or moderators of groups, and you have the ability to pin posts, I would really, if your group is a buy and sell group, I would really recommend that you grab the link to the transaction forum and you put something in it about beware of scammers, and you pin that to the top of your page, so that everyone has the opportunity to see that.
Yeah. it could also scare off some potential scammers as well. But listen,
Yeah.
there's no limit to what they're willing to sell, and I see stuff all the time that comes up on my feeds, and that's with me not following a whole lot of buy and sell groups these days. So I can only imagine like the amount of things that are really out there. But even then, I see it. Like I said, I saw a mutual gambler that was $500, and that queue was easily a $1,200 queue. But they're saying, look here, and you see the price, you see the queue, and then you think, oh, I'm getting a deal, and then you fire at it, and before you know it, you're out the money, you're out the queue, you're out everything, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, um,
Richard's funny here. He says, I ordered an alligator case. I was told they would ship it after they catch an alligator.
well, keep on waiting by the mailbox, Richard. We'll share the buyer seller transaction page here in the comments. We'll also post it on Windows Open as well, so you guys can have that resource to take a look at. John, I appreciate you for stopping by. There's plenty of other things that you guys can do, but just ask questions. Do your homework. The more questions, the better, so that way you feel safe and secure. And at the end of the day, you always have goods and services that you guys can use to cover your own ass as well. So, you got anything else, buddy, before we get out of here?
No, not really. I mean, I have a lot more, but it's just not. This isn't the right spot to rant about it. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's really what it is just trying to raise awareness of this, because it's prevalent. It's not going to stop.
No.
And these guys have no incentive to stop. They are making thousands of dollars a day out of the
Tens of
billions
thousands, yeah.
of consumers. They're making millions of dollars a day out of people across Facebook, in every hobby that you can imagine, whether it's cameras, watches, whatever it is, right? So yeah. Somebody on the chat said, what would be an appropriate punishment? To me, an appropriate punishment would be to permanently glue their fingers to the keyboard so they could never take them off.
I like it. I dig it. Yeah. Public shaming also. Take a photo of them with their hands,
Yeah,
with it on there.
absolutely.
And any other resources you share, John, we'll be happy to share on Windows Open as well when it comes to educational information to further protect yourself. So, like I said, there's plenty of good people to do business with out there as well. What's that, John?
There is one last thing. There are several websites out there where it's like Scammer Alert and different sites where you can go in and type in a URL of a website, and it will bring back to you the probability of that site being legitimate or not. So they have a lot of markers on there and a lot of tells that they look for. And from what I've seen, they're pretty good at it. So, legitimate sites will be in the 85% and up, of being legitimate. And then the scammer sites will be like in the 60s and below of probability of being an illegitimate site. So if you happen to go to a website, and you're not sure or you have any misgiving at all, just take advantage of some of those websites that are set up to check them, and give yourself an opportunity to know whether you're actually dealing with the right people or not.
I like it. John Barton of JB Cases, everyone. We appreciate all you guys for hanging out with us. And we will see you guys soon, and we'll post some of these links on the pages as well. Everyone have a great night. And John, I appreciate